SCUM Manifesto by Valerie Solanas. Valerie has put me through so much. I put myself through this much. I can't have her in my meditation space anymore. I can't have her there. So, she's here now. Baby Drizzy. Baby Drizzy. Okay. SCUM Manifesto by Valerie Solanas. I am tired. Even if I can't read much, I think I just need to get back to Valerie, just at least to complete the thought, because we ended on page 20. Competition, prestige, status, formal education, ignorance, and social and economic classes. Having an obsessive desire to be admired by women but no intrinsic worth, the male constructs a highly artificial society enabling him to appropriate the appearance of worth through money. I'm sorry for stopping so soon. Damn, this tangent is about to have a tangent. Having an obsessive desire to be admired by women but no intrinsic worth, the male constructs a highly artificial society enabling him to appropriate the appearance of worth through money, prestige, high social class, degrees, professional position, and knowledge, and by pushing as many other men as possible down professionally, socially, economically, and educationally. The purpose of higher education is not to educate, but to exclude as many as possible from the various professions. The male, totally physical, incapable of mental rapport, although able to understand and use knowledge and ideas, is unable to relate to them, to grasp them emotionally. He does not value knowledge and ideas for their own sake. They're just means to an ends. And consequently, feels no need for mental companions, no need to cultivate the intellectual potentialities of others. On the contrary, the male has a vested interest in ignorance. It gives the few knowledgeable men a decided edge on the unknowledgeable ones, and besides, the male knows that an enlightened aware female population will mean the end of him. The healthy, conceited female wants the company of equals, whom she can respect and groove on. The male and the sick, insecure, unself-confident male-female craves the company of worms. I don't know how she used male-female, but you hopefully have made it through the first 20 pages and understand the concept that Valerie offers, as some might call her the male-identified female. No genuine social revolution can be accomplished by the male, as the male on top wants the status quo, and all the male on the bottom wants is to be the male on top. This part, and Themis, you made this point, because this is, of course, the point. I'm tired. The male rebel is a farce. This is the male's society, made by him to satisfy his needs. He's never satisfied because he's not capable of being satisfied. Ultimately, what the male rebel is rebelling against is being male. The male changes only when forced to do so by technology, when he has no choice. My note here is must be forced to do right. The male changes only when forced to do so by technology, when he has no choice, when society reaches the stage where he must change or die. We're at that stage now. If women don't get their asses in gear fast, we may very well all die. Child, if I come on here and just read one page, well, then you know what? That's what I read. But 1968, she wrote this. Yeah, she went through some things, and that's how she formed her opinions, and many of them are destructive, clearly for her as well, for her own well-being, for her own personhood. Because see, that's the thing, that if all people could conceive of other people as actually people, and I know I'm not saying anything deep, it's just late, so I felt like I should take a lengthy pause. At any rate, prevention of conversation. Being completely self-centered and unable to relate to anything outside himself, the male's conversation, when not about himself, is an impersonal droning on, removed from anything of human value. I'm not laughing. Male intellectual conversation is a strained, compulsive attempt to impress the female. Daddy's girl, passive, adaptable, respectful of, and in awe of the male, allows him to impose his hideously dull chatter on her. This is not too difficult for her, as the tension and anxiety, the lack of cool, the insecurity and self-doubt, the unsureness of her own feelings and sensations that Daddy instilled in her, make her perceptions superficial and render her unable to see that the male's babble is a babble, like the aesthete appreciating the blob that's labeled great art. She believes she's grooving on what bores the shit out of her. Not only does she permit his babble to dominate, she adapts her own conversation accordingly. Trained from early childhood in niceness, politeness, and dignity, in pandering to the male need to disguise his animalism, she obligingly reduces her conversation to small talk, a bland, insipid avoidance of any topic beyond the utterly trivial, or if educated, to intellectual discussion, that is, impersonal discoursing on irrelevant abstractions. The gross national product, the common market, the influence of Rimbaud on symbolist painting. Rimbaud. So adept is she at pandering that it eventually becomes second nature. Like Karen, if it's Rimbaud or Rimbaud, I guess. I mean, I do feel like you should know how to pronounce it. So adept is she at pandering that it eventually becomes second nature, and she continues to pander to men even when in the company of other females only. Apart from pandering, her conversation is further limited by her insecurity about expressing deviant, original opinions and the self-absorption based on insecurity, and that prevents her conversation from being charming. Niceness, politeness, dignity, insecurity, and self-absorption are hardly conducive to intensity and wit. Qualities a conversation must have to be worthy of the name. Such conversation is hardly rampant, as only completely self-confident, arrogant, outgoing, proud, tough-minded females are capable of intense, bitchy, witty conversation. The duality in how she's saying it, and I was about to say it's not for me to judge how she's saying when the whole premise of this is that I'm judging what she got to say in this thing. Okay. Prevention of friendship love, parenthetical. Men have contempt for themselves for all other men whom they Men have contempt for themselves for all other men whom they contemplate more than casually, and whom they do not think are females. For example, sympathetic analysts and great artists, or agents of God, and for all women who respect and pander to them, the insecure, approval-seeking, pandering male females have contempt for themselves and for all women like them. The self-confident, swinging, thrill-seeking female females have contempt for men and for the pandering male females. Oh, she did break that down earlier. In short, contempt is the order of the day. Okay, anyway. Contempt is the order of the day. Love is not dependency or sex, but friendship, and therefore love can't exist between two males, between a male and a female, or between two females, one or both of whom is a mindless, insecure, pandering male. Like conversation, love can exist only between two secure, freewheeling, independent, groovy females. So that's what I was like, okay, of course you thought, okay, never mind. Okay. Two secure, freewheeling, independent, groovy females. Since friendship is based on respect, not contempt. Even among groovy females, deep friendships seldom occur in adulthood, as almost all of them are either tied up with men in order to survive economically or bogged down in hacking their way through the jungle and in trying to keep their heads above the amorphous mass. Love can't flourish in a society based on money and meaningless work. It requires complete economic as well as personal freedom, leisure time, and the opportunity to engage in intensely absorbing, emotionally satisfying activities, which, when shared with those you respect, lead to deep friendship. Our society provides practically no opportunity to engage in such activities. Having stripped the world of conversation, friendship, and love, the male offers us these paltry substitutes. Great art and culture. The male artist attempts to solve his dilemma of not being able to live, of not being female, by constructing a highly artificial world in which the male is heroized, that is, displays female traits, and the female is reduced to highly limited, insipid subordinate roles, that is, to being male. The male artistic aim being not to communicate, having nothing inside him, he has nothing to say, but to disguise his animalism. He resorts to symbolism and obscurity. Deep stuff. The vast majority of people, particularly the educated ones, lacking faith in their own judgment, humble, respectful of authority, daddy knows best, is translated into adult language as critic knows best, writer knows best, PhD knows best, are easily conned into believing that obscurity, evasiveness, incomprehensibility, indirectness, ambiguity, and boredom are marks of depth and brilliance. I'm going to stop after this one. I don't want to be accused of aspiring to great art. Great art proves that men are superior to women, that men are women being labeled great art, almost all of which, as the anti-feminists are fond of reminding us, was created by men. We know that great art is great because male authorities have told us so, and we can't claim otherwise, as only those with exquisite sensitivities far superior to ours can perceive and appreciate the greatness, the proof of their superior sensitivity being that they appreciate the slop that they appreciate. Appreciating is the sole diversion of the cultivated. Passive and incompetent, lacking imagination and wit, they must try to make do with that. Unable to create their own diversions, to create a little world of their own, to affect in the smallest way their environments, they must accept what's given. Unable to create or relate, they spectate. Child. Appreciating is the sole diversion of the cultivated. Passive and incompetent, lacking imagination and wit, they must try to make do with that. Unable to create their own diversions, to create a little world of their own, to affect in the smallest way their environments, They must accept what's given. Unable to create or relate, they spectate. Absorbing culture is a desperate, frantic attempt to groove in an ungroovy world. For all the people who are saying that this is just a distraction, the part of the culture with which we've been upset. I'm a honey, perfecting my crip walk before anyway. But because that's in mind, and again, who's to say what is right? So I'm not. Absorbing culture is a desperate, frantic attempt to groove in an ungroovy world, to escape the horror of a sterile, mindless existence. Culture provides a sop to the egos of the incompetent, a means of rationalizing passive spectating. They can pride themselves on their ability to appreciate the finer things, to see a jewel where there is only a turd. They want to be admired for admiring. Lacking faith in their ability to change anything, resigned to the status quo, they have to see beauty in turds because, so far as they can see, turds are all they'll ever have. There's a lot of ways to see this. Apparently that in the in the male-dominated society, critique is more important than creation, since men can't create. Now, that knocked BBL Drizzy out of my head, and y'all know, just from the bop, y'all know what's in my head. Y'all, that's a true if you know, you know. Not a ham and cheese if you know, and you know. Like a real if you know, you know. So yeah, since you can't do what Kendrick do, you gonna say, anyway. Whew. The veneration of art and culture, besides leading many women into boring, passive activity that distracts from more important and rewarding activities and from cultivating active abilities, leads to she's writing a book and she's an art way. The veneration of art and culture, besides leading many women into boring, passive activity that distracts from more important and rewarding activities and from cultivating active abilities, leads to the constant intrusion on our sensibilities of pompous dissertations on the deep beauty of this and that turn. The deep beauty of this and that turn. This allows the artist to be set up as one possessing superior feelings, perceptions, insights, and judgments, thereby undermining the faith of insecure women in the value and validity of their own feelings, perceptions, insights, and judgments. And see, this is why Valerie is frustrating, because there are things that are points that are just valid points just across humanity. Like when you're dealing with the stressors of our system on our humanity, right? And succeeding in our system versus succeeding as human beings, as spiritual beings that are energy that's come from somewhere and that is going somewhere, right? So what do you want that energy to do and move and carry on? Like, what do you want that to be, irrespective of anything outside of what you can't take in the box when you go down in the ground? Like, what are the things? What are the things that are actually the things, right? And operating in our system, in our Western white male patriarchal system, there are things that are antithetical to being a successful human being. But see, that's the thing, because we're, again, not the ones running it. So, like, no matter what they said, we're not the ones running it. So the male, having a very limited range of feelings and consequently very limited perceptions, insights, and judgments, needs the artist to guide him, to tell him what life is all about. With the male artist being totally sexual, unable to relate to anything beyond his own physical sensations, having nothing to express beyond the insight that for the male life is meaningless and absurd, cannot be an artist. I got joints are popping, it's bedtime for real. Oh, this lack of hydration, it's offensive. Like if you're not like if you don't want to like crip walk with your little teapot, right? Okay, you're not gonna tell me what's art, Valerie, though. I'm sorry, not. The male, having a very limited range of feelings and consequently very limited perceptions, insights, and judgments, needs the artist to guide him, to tell him what life is all about. But the male artist, being totally sexual, unable to relate to anything beyond his own physical sensations, having nothing to express beyond the insight that for the male, life is meaningless and absurd, cannot be an artist. How can he who is not capable of life tell us what life is all about? A male artist is a contradiction in terms. A degenerate can only produce degenerate art. The true artist is every self-confident, healthy female, and in a female society, the only art, the only culture will be conceited, kooky, funky females grooving on each other and on everything else in the universe. So whatever Valerie decides is the way we need to spend our time. Sexuality. Sex is not part of a relationship. On the contrary, it is a solitary experience, non-creative, a gross waste of time. The female can easily, far more easily than she may think, condition away her sex drive. Leaving her completely cool and cerebral and free to pursue truly worthy relationships and activities. But the male, who seems to dig women sexually and who seeks constantly to arouse them, stimulates the highly sexed female to frenzies of lust, throwing her into a sex bag. A lot of hair hats and sex bags. Okay. This week, throwing her into a sex bag from which few women ever escape. The lecherous male excited the lustful female. He has to, when the female transcends her body, rises above animalism, the male whose ego consists of his cock will disappear. Just poof. Goodness, Black women's bodies. I'm not gonna let Valerie tell me how I should feel about my body and her equation of everything sexual. Therefore, to me, since she's impugned the body, Valerie's writing for our culture. Sex is the refuge of the mindless, and the more mindless the woman, the more deeply embedded in the male culture. In short, the nicer she is, the more sexual she is. Well, see, sometimes she does know how they conceive. See, that's the unfortunate part. The nicest women in our society are raving sex maniacs, but being just awfully, awfully nice, they don't, of course, descend to that's uncouth. Rather, they make love, commune by means of their bodies, and establish sensual rapport. The literary ones are attuned to the throb of eros and attain a clutch upon the universe. The religious have spiritual communion with the divine sensualism. The mystics merge with the erotic principle and blend with the cosmos. And the acid heads connect their erotic cells. On the other hand, those females least embedded in the male culture, the least nice, those crass and simple souls who reduce, who are too childish for the grown-up world of suburbs, mortgages, mops, and babies, too selfish to raise kids and husbands, too uncivilized to give a for anyone's opinion of them, too arrogant to respect daddy, the greats, or the deep wisdom of the ancients. See, and that's where she get herself fucked up at, because our ancients are our ancestors. So again, anywho, these are some throw out the baby with the bathwater type of people in general. So too arrogant to respect daddy, the greats, or the deep wisdom of the ancients, who trust only their animal gutter instincts, who equate culture with chicks, whose sole diversion is prowling for emotional thrills and excitement, who are given to disgusting, nasty, upsetting scenes, hateful, violent, given to slamming those who unduly irritate them in the teeth, who'd sink a shiv into a man's chest or ram an ice pick up his as soon as look at him if they knew they could get away with it. In short, those who by the standards of our culture are scum. These females are cool and relatively cerebral and skirting asexuality. See, the thing is, she's still not lying though. I still don't want to join their group, but unhampered by propriety, niceness, discretion, public opinion, morals, the respect of always funky, dirty, low down scum gets around and around and around. Yeah, I get around. Valerie gets around. The scum gets around. Low down scum gets around and around and around. They've seen the whole show, every bit of it. Scene, the sucking scene, the dyke scene. They've covered the whole waterfront, been under every dock and pier, the Peter Pier, the Pussy Pier. You've got to go through a lot of sex to get to, well, now, see, you've got to go through a lot of sex to get to anti-sex. And scum's been through it all, and they're now ready for a new show. They want to crawl out from under the dock. That probably sounded like the word that it's not. From under the dock. Move, take off, sink out. But scum doesn't yet prevail. Scum's still in the gutter of our society, which, if it's not deflected from its present course and if the bomb doesn't drop on it, will hump itself to death. Boredom. Life in a society made by and for creatures who, when they are not grim and depressing, are utter bores, can only be when not grim and depressing, an utter bore. I feel like this is a great place to stop. Page 28. I don't know, 16 more to go. I'm going to say if it goes, no, not 42. I thought it ended on 47. Oh. Yay. Ended on boredom. We will pick up secrecy, censorship, suppression of knowledge and ideas, and exposés. Oh, child. We'll be back. Child, we can still recording. I promise. Soldier Boy in my head, Drake, like a kid.